What if I told you the Vatican doesn't just read about history, but can watch it unfold? That there exists a device capable of viewing past events as if they were TV broadcasts, and more, that the Catholic Church ordered its destruction not because it was a hoax, but precisely because it worked perfectly. We're talking about the Chronovisor, a machine that supposedly allowed observation of any moment in human history. A device that could show Christ's crucifixion, the construction of the pyramids, Julius Caesar's assassination, everything in real time, everything verifiable. And this terrified the Vatican so profoundly that they did the unthinkable. They destroyed the only physical proof of the true history of Jesus Christ. Today, you'll discover the truth about the most dangerous device ever created by humanity. You'll understand why Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a respected scientist and Benedictine monk, official exorcist of the Diocese of Venice and specialist in archaic Gregorian music, a man with impeccable credentials within the Catholic Church, and he had just claimed something impossible, that he had participated in building a time machine. But it wasn't a time machine in the traditional sense. You couldn't physically travel to the past. The Chronovisor was something even more disturbing, a temporal television, a device that captured residual energy from past events and reconstructed them visually on a screen. Imagine being able to tune in to any moment in history like you tune a TV channel. Christ's crucifixion, Channel 33. Cleopatra's Last Night, Channel 47. The true author of Shakespeare's works, Channel 91. Ernetti wasn't alone in his claim. He named specific scientists involved in the project. Enrico Fermi, Nobel Prize winner in physics, pioneer of nuclear energy. Wernher von Braun, the Nazi scientist who would later lead the American space program. 12 physicists in total, working secretly in the Vatican during the 1950s, and all swore never to reveal the complete technical details of the device. Why? Because the Chronovisor worked, and that was the problem. Think about it. The Catholic Church bases its authority on specific interpretations of historical events. The life of Jesus Christ, the miracles, the resurrection, all filtered through texts written decades after the events, copied and recopied, translated and retranslated, edited and censored over centuries. And suddenly a device appears that can show exactly what happened, that can verify every claim, every miracle, every word attributed to Christ. Can you imagine the scale of the problem? Ernetti described the basic functioning of the Chronovisor in terms that mixed quantum physics with almost mystical concepts. According to him, every human action leaves an energetic mark in space-time. Sounds, images, even thoughts, everything continues existing in some form of residual energy. The Chronovisor would be capable of detecting, amplifying, and reconstructing these energies, transforming them back into perceptible images and sounds. The machine would have several components: special antennas made from rare metal alloys, an amplification system using principles not yet understood by conventional physics, and an incredibly precise tuning mechanism capable of focusing on a specific person in a specific location at a specific moment in the past. But Father Ernetti made a fatal mistake. He offered proof. On May 2nd, 1972, the same magazine published what would be the first and only official photograph obtained through the Chronovisor. The image showed Christ's face during the crucifixion. It wasn't a painting, it wasn't a photographed sculpture. It was, according to Ernetti, a direct capture of the real moment of the historical Jesus at the moment of his death. The image caused an earthquake. Experts divided. Some claimed the photograph showed anatomical details and expressions impossible to fake. Others began to investigate, and here the story gets disturbing. Decades later, an Italian researcher named Luigi Borrello discovered something unsettling. The image published by Ernetti was almost identical to a sculpture of Christ located in a sanctuary in Collevalenza, Umbria. Almost identical, but not exactly. There were subtle differences that could indicate either a crude fraud or something far more sinister, that the sculpture itself had been created based on an earlier image obtained by the Chronovisor. Think about it. What's more likely? That a respected priest, scientist, and official Vatican exorcist would risk his entire reputation with an easily unmaskable fraud? Or that he was forced to contaminate the evidence to discredit his own discovery? What if Ernetti's true mission in revealing the Chronovisor wasn't to prove its existence, but to create enough confusion so that no one would believe when real proof emerged? But wait, there's much more to this story, and what comes next will make you question everything you thought you knew about the power behind the scenes in the 20th century. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now, because we're going to dive deep into the connections no one wants you to see. Let's talk about the scientists involved. Enrico Fermi died in 1954, supposedly from stomach cancer. He was 53 years old. He was one of the main architects of the Manhattan Project and knew nuclear secrets that could destroy nations. Werner von Braun, the Nazi who became an American hero, died in 1977 from pancreatic cancer. He was 65 years old. He knew aerospace technologies decades ahead of their time. The other 10 scientists cited by Ernetti all died before 1980, all from natural causes, all before reaching 70 years old. Statistically, this is possible, but it's a remarkable coincidence. 12 of the greatest scientific geniuses of the 20th century, all working on the same secret project, all dying before they could reveal complete details. And there's an even more disturbing pattern. None of them left detailed notes about the Chronovisor. No diaries, no technical schematics, no manuscripts explaining the physical principles involved. It's as if there was a silent agreement, an academic blood pact to take the secret to the grave. But why? What did they see? Ernetti gave some clues in later interviews, always cautious, always measured. He claimed to have witnessed crucial historical events. He said he saw and heard the complete staging of the lost tragedy Thyestes by Ennius, a Latin text from the 2nd century BC that had completely disappeared from history. He even transcribed complete excerpts from the play, including music and choreography. Classical Latin scholars were shocked. The text transcribed by Ernetti perfectly followed the rules of meter and style of the period. Specific historical references matched later archaeological discoveries. It was too perfect to be an invention, but it was also too perfect to be accepted as real. And here's the crucial detail few notice. Ernetti didn't profit at all from his revelations. He didn't sell books, didn't give paid lectures, didn't try to commercialize the technology. He continued being a simple monk until his death in 1994. A man who could have become a billionaire simply by patenting the idea, maintained obedient silence. Why? Because he was silenced. In 1988, the Vatican issued an internal order rarely discussed publicly. Any research related to the Chronovisor was officially prohibited. Not just discouraged, prohibited. Catholic priests and scientists were instructed never to touch the subject again. Files related to the project were sealed. Access was restricted to such a small circle that to this day it's not known exactly who has permission to consult these documents. The official justification? Protection of historical privacy. The Vatican argued that a device capable of observing any moment in the past would violate the human dignity of historical figures. It was an ethical concern, they said, a matter of morality. But do you really believe that? An institution that kept secrets about sexual abuse for decades is concerned about the privacy of people dead for centuries? An organization that manipulated sacred texts, that burned heretics, that financed inquisitions, suddenly developed scruples about spying on Julius Caesar? No. The truth is much simpler and much more disturbing. The Vatican saw something. They used the Chronovisor, and what they saw destroyed the foundations of 2,000 years of doctrine. Here's what we know they witnessed, based on fragments leaked over decades by Vatican insiders who couldn't live with the secret. Father Ernetti himself, in a deathbed confession to a close friend in 1994, revealed partial details that were later corroborated by at least 3 independent sources within the Vatican archives. They saw the crucifixion, but not the crucifixion taught in every church, painted in every cathedral, described in every gospel. They saw something that contradicted fundamental theological positions. The exact nature of what they witnessed remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in human history. But the implications were clear enough that 12 of the world's most brilliant minds agreed to never speak of it publicly. Ernetti hinted that the historical Jesus was dramatically different from the theological Christ. Not in ways that made him less significant, but different in ways that would require a complete reinterpretation of Christian doctrine. Differences that would shift power structures that had stood for millennia. But let's go deeper, because the Chronovisor revealed something else, something even more dangerous than historical discrepancies about religious figures. The device showed that history itself, as we know it, is fundamentally wrong. Major historical events that shaped civilizations, that determined the rise and fall of empires, that killed millions and created nations, didn't happen the way we've been taught. The Chronovisor team witnessed alternative versions of pivotal moments. And when they cross-referenced what they saw with historical records, they realized something terrifying. Someone had been systematically altering our understanding of the past. Not through simple mistakes or misinterpretations, through deliberate, coordinated manipulation spanning centuries. Ernetti mentioned in a 1990 interview, shortly before his death, that the team had observed events from ancient Rome. He specifically referenced the burning of the Library of Alexandria. What they saw didn't match any historical account. The fire wasn't accidental. It wasn't caused by Julius Caesar's forces, as traditionally believed. It was a coordinated destruction carried out by a group Ernetti refused to name, but whose symbols and methods he described in disturbing detail. According to Ernetti, this same group appeared repeatedly throughout history at critical junctures. They were present during the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, when the Christian biblical canon was established. They were present during the burning of the Library of Baghdad in 1258. They were present during key moments of the Protestant Reformation. Who were they? Ernetti called them the Custodians of Chronology, a secret society that existed before recorded history, whose sole purpose was controlling humanity's understanding of its own past. By controlling history, they controlled the present. By controlling what people believed about where they came from, they controlled where people believed they could go. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because what I'm about to reveal will shake your understanding of reality itself. The Chronovisor proved that this group still exists, still operates, still manipulates. In 1963, the Chronovisor team attempted to observe the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in real time. They couldn't, not because the technology didn't work, but because the event was somehow blocked, shielded, as if someone knew they would try to observe it and had taken countermeasures. This is when the team realized they weren't the only ones with temporal viewing technology. Someone else had it, someone who had developed it earlier, someone who was using it to monitor the monitors. Wernher von Braun, in a classified memo discovered in declassified NASA archives in 2009, mentioned temporal interference patterns detected during Apollo missions. He suggested that someone was observing the moon landings from a temporal vantage point. But his memo raised a troubling question. Were they observing from the future or from a present hidden from conventional detection? The Vatican realized they were in over their heads. They had stumbled onto something that threatened not just religious doctrine, but the fundamental security of linear causality itself. If you can observe the past, can you change it? If you can observe the present from a temporal remove, can you interfere with it? These weren't philosophical questions anymore. They were operational concerns. In 1985, 3 years before the official prohibition, something happened that forced the Vatican's hand. A Chronovisor session was conducted without official authorization by a junior researcher who had been trained on the device. He attempted to observe a specific moment, the moment when the Chronovisor was first turned on. When he saw, terrified him so completely that he suffered a complete psychological breakdown. He was institutionalized and remained catatonic until his death in 1991. The notes from his session were immediately classified, but a Vatican archivist who saw them before they were sealed described what the researcher had witnessed. When the Chronovisor was first turned on, it didn't just show the past, it showed every Chronovisor that would ever be built, all simultaneously, observing each other in an infinite temporal cascade. The researcher realized he was being watched through his own device by operators from different time periods, all looking at each other, all aware of each other's observations. The implication was clear. Time isn't linear. Observation creates connection, and these connections can be exploited. The Vatican understood that continuing the research would create vulnerabilities. If they could observe the past, others with similar technology could observe them, could learn their secrets, could anticipate their actions. The Chronovisor had to be destroyed, not because it revealed uncomfortable historical truths, but because it connected the Vatican to a temporal surveillance network they couldn't control. So, they destroyed it. Or did they? Here's the thing about powerful technology that threatens power structures. It never really goes away. It just goes underground. Multiple sources have suggested that the Chronovisor wasn't destroyed, but compartmentalized, broken into components and distributed among different Vatican departments, each unaware of what the others possessed. The knowledge of how to reassemble it was divided among a small group of cardinals, each knowing only their portion of the assembly process. This would explain why Ernetti's confession in 1972 didn't lead to immediate consequences. He revealed enough to create plausible deniability, but not enough to allow reconstruction. He showed his hand just enough to warn others with similar research to stop, but not enough to actually prove anything definitively.
It was a brilliant strategy of controlled disclosure. Make the truth seem like conspiracy theory. Make the proof seem like fraud. Make the witnesses seem unreliable, all while keeping the actual technology secure and hidden. And there's evidence this strategy worked perfectly. In 1998, a researcher named Father François Brune published a book called Le Nouveau Mystère du Vatican, where he included testimonies from anonymous Vatican insiders claiming the Chronovisor was still operational. He provided technical details that matched Ernetti's original descriptions. He included names of current researchers allegedly working on temporal observation projects. The book was immediately dismissed as sensationalism. Ernetti's photograph had already been debunked as a fraud, so anything related to the Chronovisor was automatically considered fiction. Brune was marginalized, his academic credentials questioned, his motives impugned. But if you read carefully, Brune provided something Ernetti never did, a theoretical framework for how temporal observation might actually work within known physics. He suggested that the Chronovisor operated on principles similar to quantum retrocausality, a legitimate area of physics research that explores how effects can precede causes at the quantum level. If information can travel backwards in time at quantum scales, and if human consciousness creates measurable quantum effects, then theoretically, a sufficiently sensitive instrument could detect and reconstruct past quantum states, including the quantum states that encoded sensory experiences like sight and sound. This isn't pseudoscience. These are legitimate physical principles being explored by mainstream researchers at institutions like the University of Queensland and the Weizmann Institute. The Chronovisor might not have been mystical or supernatural. It might have been decades ahead of public physics research, but operating on sound theoretical principles that are only now being understood. Which raises another disturbing possibility. What if the Chronovisor wasn't invented by the team in the 1950s? What if they discovered it? What if it was ancient technology that had existed for centuries, perhaps millennia, hidden in the Vatican archives and reverse-engineered by modern physicists? The Vatican's secret archives contain over 35,000 volumes of historical documents, covering 1,200 years of history. But the Vatican itself is much older. The site has been continuously occupied since ancient Roman times, and Rome itself was built on even older settlements. What technologies might have existed in civilizations we barely remember? What knowledge might have been preserved by institutions that survived the fall of empires? Ancient texts reference devices that sound suspiciously like temporal observation. The legendary Mirror of Solomon supposedly showed past and future events. The shoe stone used by John Dee in the 16th century was said to display visions of historical moments. Multiple mystical traditions reference objects or techniques for scrying time itself. What if these weren't metaphors or superstitions? What if they were primitive descriptions of technologies that actually existed? Technologies that were later lost, then rediscovered, then hidden again in an endless cycle spanning human history.
The more you research the Chronovisor, the more you realize it's not one story. It's a thread that, when pulled, begins to unravel the entire fabric of accepted history. Every anomaly, every unexplained archaeological find, every ancient text that seems impossibly advanced for its time suddenly has a potential explanation. Someone with temporal observation technology ensuring certain knowledge survived, certain secrets remained hidden. Father Ernetti's revelation wasn't an ending, it was a beginning, an invitation to look deeper, question more, trust less. And here's what you need to understand. Whether or not the Chronovisor physically exists, whether or not it actually works, is almost irrelevant at this point. The important truth is that powerful institutions believe in the possibility enough to suppress it. They take it seriously enough to classify it. They fear it enough to destroy researchers who get too close. That fear tells you everything you need to know. If the Chronovisor was obviously impossible, they would ignore it. If it was clearly a fraud, they would debunk it. Instead, they silence it, which means it's dangerous, which means it's real in the ways that matter. Now, what can you do with this knowledge? How do you verify any of this for yourself? First, start with the primary sources. Read Ernetti's original interviews in Italian publications from the 1970s. Many have been digitized and are available through Italian university archives. Look for the original photographs he provided. Compare them yourself to the sculpture in Calais, Valenza. Form your own conclusions about the similarities and differences. Second, research the scientists he named: Enrico Fermi, Wernher von Braun, and the others. Look into their movements in the 1950s. Note any gaps in their documented activities. Look for references in their personal correspondence to special projects or Vatican consultations. Third, explore quantum retrocausality research. Read papers from legitimate physicists working on quantum entanglement and temporal dynamics. Understand the theoretical framework that could support temporal observation.
Fourth, investigate the Vatican's secret archives access policies. Note how they've changed over time. Look at what documents have been made public and what remains sealed. Pay special attention to items from the 1950s and 1960s that are still restricted despite being over 60 years old. Fifth, trace the careers of people who've researched this topic. Notice patterns. Notice who was marginalized, who changed subjects abruptly, who died unexpectedly. This isn't about believing in conspiracy, it's about recognizing patterns of suppression. But here's the most important thing. Maintain critical thinking. Question everything, including what I've told you. The goal isn't to make you believe in the Chronovisor. The goal is to make you curious enough to dig deeper into how history is controlled, how truth is suppressed, how power maintains itself through information monopoly. Because whether the Chronovisor exists or not, the mechanisms of secrecy certainly do. The patterns of suppression are real. The ways institutions hide uncomfortable truths are well documented. The Chronovisor story is a lens through which you can see how this system operates. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how many revolutionary technologies are disappeared, how many brilliant researchers suffer sudden career-ending scandals right when they're on the verge of breakthrough discoveries.
How many historical narratives serve the interests of current power structures? How convenient it is that certain questions never get definitively answered. The Chronovisor might be the most important device never publicly acknowledged. Or it might be an elaborate disinformation campaign to discredit temporal research. Or it might be both, operating simultaneously at different levels of truth. That ambiguity is intentional. It's designed to make you uncertain. Because uncertain people don't act. They wait for more proof. They wait for authorities to confirm. They wait forever. Don't wait. Research, question, verify independently, and understand that some truths are precisely suppressed because they're true. The Chronovisor threatened to show humanity its real history, unfiltered by institutions that profit from controlled narratives. They couldn't allow it then. They won't allow it now. But they can't stop you from asking questions, from piecing together fragments, from seeing patterns. You now know about the most dangerous device ever created. You know why it was hidden. You know who was involved. You know what they feared. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. The Chronovisor showed history isn't fixed. It's a story being told by those with the power to tell it. They tried to destroy the device that could verify which version was true. They silenced the scientists who built it. They marginalized researchers who investigated it. But they couldn't destroy the idea. They couldn't silence everyone, and they can't stop truth from eventually emerging piece by piece through people like you who refuse to accept official narratives without verification. Father Ernetti's greatest achievement wasn't building the Chronovisor. It was making sure the story survived, even if the device didn't. He made certain that people would keep asking questions, keep digging, keep refusing to forget. And now you're part of that chain. You carry this knowledge forward. You ask the uncomfortable questions. You demand accountability from institutions that want to control what you're allowed to know about human history. They destroyed a machine that could show you the past. Don't let them destroy your curiosity about it.